Alright, what's up YouTube? This is video number next for me on Sonic here. Check out my other videos about this real cheap Sonic LT, 1.4 turbo 6-speed. Needs a lot of work. One of the things I want to do is do an RS rear suspension, or actual full suspension I should say. There's actually the RS rear beam assembly, so hopefully someday soon it's going in. I bought it off a junkyard. Shock, springs, everything I needed to do the swap except for the parking brake cable, so go figure. So I already did the springs and dampers. It already looks very different. Excuse the sweet blue tipped exhaust, I did not put that in. To do that it's really straightforward. I mean, put the car in the air, pull that shock bolt that's in the middle, drop the torsion beam, do it to both sides. So that shock bolt right there, that shock bolt right there, the whole beam drops way low. You can easily just grab the spring, wiggle it out, put the other one back in. It was kind of a PETA to put the new spring in, kind of to almost like thread it into the spring isolator. But beyond that, it was a pretty straightforward job. I didn't even do a video of it. I'll show some pictures here in a second of the parts, the part numbers that are different. It's just the stock Sonic RS suspension, nothing aftermarket. It's not GM Performance, it's not Megan, it's not anybody, it's just stock Sonic RS. The next step here is the struts. I'm not going to do a full how-to on how to replace the struts. You can see these things look like they've kind of been through the war, pretty rusty, pretty beat up. There's still some clunking in the front end. I did the control arm. I don't think I have a video on that. That was a real big pain. It was really loose on that front bushing. Up here, it was clunking around pretty good. There's still a few clunks and rattles in the suspension I'm trying to find. I'm hoping that the strut mounts are bad on this, but I think it's just the passenger side control arm. So in any case, this is the front suspension of it. So sorry for the box being upside down. This is the strut I bought. It's an FCS branded 233742L. Supposedly, across that part number everywhere I could find, that's only for the Sonic RS. So, and I even dug into the assembly a little bit. It has a different strut, so hopefully it's valid for the Sonic RS as well. It's quite a bit cheaper than the AC Delco, and it is a complete strut assembly with a new strut mount, new spring, new strut. So it saved me from buying any other new parts. I did notice that it has a single stud mount right here. Doesn't have the typical 3, so it's kind of interesting. I've never seen one like that, so dig into that in a minute. If I run into any snags, I'll try to do a quick video, but hopefully this is a pretty straightforward strut assembly, or strut installation I should say. A couple things to watch out for. You know, these bolts are rusted pretty good. Probably the smartest thing I've done for myself in a long time was spray these with PB Blaster a couple times over the last week or so. It really came out easily, and then back them out so that they're flush, so I can whap them with my encouragement device and not damage the threads on either the nut or the bolt. The ABS sensor cable, it just popped right out. That wasn't a problem. The brake line itself, it needed a little bit of encouragement, needed pried out and some WD-40 on it. So it's got a little bit of age on it, so I wasn't too surprised. Alright, so we did hit our first snag. The strut lives behind, this is kind of the strut tower. Between this electrical box and under the wiper cowl here. So the stud for the strut is somewhere down here, and thanks guys, that's appreciated. So anyways, you got to pull this cowling up. I actually looked in the service manual. It just said it just skipped straight to take the nut off that mounts it. It didn't say how to do this, so I'm going to try to muddle my way through it. I didn't look it up, but there's about 4 of these across the front. Pretty straightforward, probably off the top half. I've already loosened this one up obviously for the video, but this comes out, and then this bottom one pops out as well. I've had them be pretty big pain. The 4 across the front of here were pretty straightforward. Came right out, no problem. There was a little cap on top of the strut. It was a little black plastic cap. I popped this off already, and I already have it soaking in PB Blaster because that is crazy rusty. Sorry. Alright, this pissed me off to no end. This is a first. I've never had to pull wipers out to get the freaking strut out, but here we are. All right, got the driver's side one right off. One thing I did notice is that I rocked this really hard as I gave it just a couple cracks right here in the center. I was very careful not to ding the threads, but the way the threads are on here, it shouldn't be a problem. You can put the nut back on if you're really worried about it. But then I just rocked it kind of down, right like that, and then it seemed to pop right loose. So there's that. And then just one more time to piss you off, they put a screw right here in the middle of the windshield. Pop this little square cover off the screwdriver, came right out. There's a 7mm head screw in there. Pop that out. All right, so I got the cowl off. Thanks GM or whoever designed this. It's a 24mm socket. There is enough room to get my Harbor Freight impact in there, so I'll be trying to buzz that out real quick. Sorry, I'm not one of those fancy YouTubers with all the fancy equipment. I only have 2 hands. So. All right, so Mr. Impact did his job. I was able to bust this out with just the impact. Didn't have to counter hold it. Get the special tool. That was good. Gosh, I'm out of shape. I stopped drinking beer and start doing some running. Everything down here is pretty straightforward. Knocked the bolts out. Strut came right out. The service manual actually says to take this tie rod end off. I'm not sure why. It wasn't in the way. It didn't bother me. That's just one more thing you got to mess with and risk messing a boot up, blah, blah, blah. So I went ahead and left it and tried it, and it was fine. Proceed at your own risk. Looks nice and shiny. You got to get that sway bar end link back in. So everything's kind of just sitting here loose. Grab the bolts and put this back together. This started as a not going to do a how-to video, but here we are. This was definitely an eye-opener with that cowl and getting the wiper off. So I'm going to go ahead and step through with the whole how-to and try to get that done. Or at least what's different than most cars. I couldn't really find much on YouTube actually how to do this. So I did have the strut side by side with the old one right here. Stupid me, forgot to take a picture of it side by side. It is a little shorter, so that's a good sign. So it's definitely a little bit different than the stock Sonic LT, LS, whatever suspension. So we're off to a good start. So I'm going to button this up and do the other side and see where we're at. All right, so driver's side's done, I hope. This is just shiny black paint. If you've never seen the video, there we go. So everything's tightened back up. For torque specs, I went by the book. These 2 bolts here got 3 Ugga Duggas, and then the sway bar inlet got 2 Ugga Duggas. That's what I did last. So, and then these things slid right back in, so that everything went fine. The top strut mount got again 3 Ugga Duggas. I just went until it wouldn't go anymore on 3 Ugga Duggas. So hopefully that's about right. All right, so here's my list of tools so far: PB Blaster WD-40, Whammer. 7mm on an impact. I think that's a 15mm. I use an impact for that. Get the wipers off. 17mm for sway bar end links. The factory one might be 18. I can't remember. I did just do the sway bar end links with AC Delcos. I think they changed the nut size. Go figure. This is a 21mm socket. You'll need to get the big bolts off the struts. Impact comes in handy with variable Ugga Duggas. You'll need them. Ratchet comes in handy. 21mm regular combo wrench comes in handy. A couple screwdrivers to get the cowl fasteners and wiper blades off, basically, and to get the hoses or the brake hose off the strut. And then also a 22mm. I can't see it. 22mm socket for the new FCS struts, if that's what you're using. That's the nut that came in the box. And then a 24mm socket to get the old struts off. Of course, these are obviously impact rated. Don't judge me. Be safe. Don't be like me. All right, on today's episode of It's Always Something, the stabilizer end link bolt, or nut, I should say, wouldn't come off cleanly even with the impact, so I got to take that off the old-fashioned way. This is an AC Delco branded end link. I did a video on it earlier. Probably 7 people have watched it. Yeah. Anyways, I believe that the old one, if I remember right, this was an 18mm nut. This is currently a 6mm hex. I have to check my tool. It's 6mm hex. It might have been different on the stock one. I can't remember. I seem to remember a different size or torques, but too many bush lattes, I guess. So, anyways, when you're taking this off, the point of this is you want to drive the stud clockwise, that drives the nut counterclockwise when you hold it, right? It's all relative. So remember, if you're taking this nut off, you want to drive the stud clockwise. That'll back it off, but you always have to counter hold it with the wrench. Popped right off. Look at that. It's like the nut's seen better days already. Great. I think I've got 100 miles on that nut. Just a quick note, when you pop these out, do on the other side, it made this flush, that way it doesn't damage the threads. These are serrated into both the strut and the steering knuckle. So some of these have been tight. The one I thought I was going to have to get like my big sledgehammer, my 8-pound sledgehammer, but some hits hard enough with this guy, they pop loose. The other one was actually pretty easy, so go figure. So be ready for a workout on those. All right, passenger side's all buttoned up. I got the hoses back in, mounted, bolts are all snugged down, the torque's back to 3. I got Douglas again. Sway bar end links installed. All right, so got the cowl back in. Fast back then, I got these little. Fast back down, I got these little plastic fasteners in all the way across. This little screw in. One thing to know: there's no alignment marks on these. There's no detents. There's no spline, whatever. So the way I did it was use the witness marks from dust on the windshield. Kind of guess where it should go, and it seems reasonable. There's a little gap there. It's hard to see between the wiper and that plastic. I'm going to use that as kind of my reference, and when I tighten this back down, that's going to be my reference here. So I'm going to hold that right there, see it moving around, and then buzz that nut back down. It's still loose right now. It's just kind of started on there. And then do a similar story for the driver's side wiper. I'm going to maintain this gap here, I guess, for lack of a better word. Matches up with the dust line. So that's my strategy. We'll see if it works. All right, so I buzzed these down with my impact driver. Whatever that torque was, it was that guy right there. So however hard that hits is the torque I used. My strategy seemed to work. There's still a little bit of a gap up there. Sorry, it's kind of hard to see. You almost kind of see like a mark where maybe it used to go down even a little bit further. So hopefully it's close enough. Make the rain go off the windshield, hopefully. So we'll see. These aren't too hard to adjust, so if I do see a problem, it's not hard to take those caps off and nudge them around a little bit. But that's arguably the most annoying step in this. I've never had to take wipers off to change a freaking strut. It's just not acceptable.